The space station floated in the black ocean of space. Its silver rings turning slowly, bright lights shining like small stars. People moved through the main docking bay, their voices mixing into a low hum. Everyone was waiting for the alien ship to arrive. Ethan Cole stood near the back of the crowd. His hands were inside his worn jacket pockets. He was an engineer, not a soldier, not a diplomat. He had no reason to be here, and yet something told him he should come. A deep vibration ran through the floor. The sound of engines rumbled in the air. The alien ship appeared, sliding out from the shadows of space. It was massive, shaped like a dark spear. Glowing lines running across its surface. It looked both beautiful and dangerous. The docking clamps locked with a loud metallic bang. The crowd took a step back. Their eyes widened as the alien airlock hissed open. A cold mist spilled out, and then the alien delegation stepped forward. Tall, thin figures wearing black armor. Their faces were hidden behind masks. Each one moved with slow, graceful steps in the middle of the group, between two guards. Something small was being pushed forward. It was a cage made of strange, glowing bars. Inside was a figure, curled up on the floor. A man from the alien side spoke in a voice like cracked metal. "A gift for your people," he said. His words carried through the bay speakers for entertainment. The crowd reacted with laughter, whispers, and curious looks. Some people leaned closer, trying to see inside the cage. Ethan frowned. He could see the figure was a girl, not human. Her skin was pale, with a faint blue glow. Her long silver hair was tangled. Her clothes were torn and dirty. She did not move much. Only a small rise and fall of her chest showed she was alive. The alien guard tapped the cage with his staff. "She is broken," he said, "but perhaps amusing to watch." More laughter came from the crowd. A few people clapped like it was some kind of show. Ethan felt his stomach twist. Something about her made him uneasy. She was not a toy, not a gift. She was a living being. Station Commander Hale stepped forward. His uniform was perfect. His smile was thin. "We thank you for this offering," he said. "She will be placed in the entertainment sector at once." Two station security officers stepped up to take the cage. They rolled it toward the exit. The girl inside gave no resistance, but as she passed Ethan, her head lifted slightly, just for a moment. Their eyes met. Her eyes were bright silver. But there was something deeper there, something human-like fear, and a silent plea for help. Ethan's breath caught. He knew that look. He had seen it once before, on a battlefield years ago. A prisoner looking at someone who might be their only chance. He took a step forward. "Wait," he called out without thinking. His voice was lost in the noise. Nobody paid attention to him. The crowd began to break apart. People going back to their work, talking excitedly about the alien gift. Ethan stayed still, watching the cage disappear through the side doors. His mind raced. Who was she? Why was she here? Why would the aliens give her away like this? It did not make sense, unless it was not really a gift. He turned to leave. Heading toward the maintenance corridors, the air in the station suddenly felt colder. A faint hum from the alien ship echoed in his ears. It was still docked, its dark shape blocking part of the stars. Something about that ship told him danger was not over. This was not just a simple visit. This was the start of something much bigger. Ethan walked quickly through the narrow halls, his boots clicking against the metal floor. He took a shortcut toward the entertainment sector. If he moved fast, maybe he could see where they put her. When he reached the edge of the sector, he found two guards standing outside the main hall. The cage was already inside, covered now with a sheet. The sound of machinery hummed from behind the doors. One guard noticed him and frowned. "This area is off limits to maintenance staff," the man said. Ethan forced a small smile. "Just checking the wiring in this section." He lied. There's been a power flicker. The guard shook his head. Not here, he said. Move along. Ethan walked away slowly. His mind was already making a plan. He did not know why he cared so much, but he did. That girl was. More than what they said, he could feel it, far above the station. The alien ship's lights shifted in color. A faint red glow pulsed along its hull, as if sending a silent signal into the dark. Ethan did not see it, but deep down, he felt the same thing the girl felt. The real danger had only just begun. The station's artificial night cycle had begun. The main corridors were quiet. Lights dimmed to a soft blue. Most people were in their quarters, but Ethan was not. He moved through the narrow service tunnels, guided only by a small, handheld lamp. He had spent the last 2 hours thinking, remembering the girl's eyes. They were not the eyes of someone broken for entertainment. They were the eyes of someone still fighting to live. He could not forget them. He would not forget them. The tunnel smelled of warm metal and old machine oil. Pipes lined the walls, carrying water and air through the station. Ethan knew every shortcut, every maintenance hatch. He had worked here for years, fixing problems that nobody else noticed. Tonight, he would use that knowledge for something the station commander would call dangerous. He reached a side door near the entertainment sector. It was locked with a basic security code, nothing too advanced. He pulled out a small tool from his jacket and began to work. Sparks danced in the dark as the lock gave a soft click. The door slid open just enough for him to slip inside. The air was colder here. The entertainment sector was built like a showroom. A place where the powerful could watch alien creatures perform or be displayed. Ethan hated this place. It always felt wrong. Like a zoo with no kindness, he kept to the shadows. Moving past cages filled with empty chairs, tonight there was only one occupied space. The one with the alien girl. Her cage was no longer covered. The glowing bars hummed softly. Casting light across her pale face, she was lying on the floor. Her breathing slow but steady. Her silver hair spilled across the metal beneath her. Ethan stepped closer, careful not to trigger the motion sensors. "Can you hear me?" He whispered. The girl stirred. Her head turned slightly. Her eyes opened halfway. They were the same bright silver he had seen before. She looked at him for a long moment, then tried to speak. The sound that came out was broken. Like a whisper trapped in a storm, he leaned closer, but could not understand the words. "It's all right." Ethan said quietly, "I'm not here to hurt you." She blinked slowly, then shifted. Her hand moved toward the glowing bars, but stopped an inch away. He noticed thin scars running along her wrist. Lines that looked like burns. Ethan's jaw tightened. He wanted to break the bars, to get her out right now. But he knew that would set off alarms across the station. And the alien guards would be here in seconds. "I'll find a way," he promised. Keeping his voice low, "I'll get you out of here." Her lips moved again. This time, he thought he caught a single word, but it was not in any language he knew. Still, her tone made it sound like a plea. Ethan pulled a small scanner from his belt. He pretended to check the cage's power output. But in truth, he was scanning her. The results flashed across the tiny display. His stomach dropped. She wasn't just injured. She had some kind of foreign device inside her chest. It was small, but alive with energy, sending out a pulse every few seconds. The signal was faint, but steady. A tracker, Ethan thought. Someone out there was watching her location. He quickly shut off the scanner and looked around. No cameras in sight, only the motion sensors. He leaned close to her again. "Listen. You're not safe here." He whispered, "That thing inside you. It's telling them where you are." Her eyes widened slightly. She seemed to understand. Her fingers curled tightly against the floor. Ethan heard movement in the distance, the slow mechanical hum of security drones. He stepped back into the shadows. His heart pounded. If they found him here, He'd lose any chance of helping her. 2 drones floated into the room, scanning the cage with red beams. Their voices spoke in the alien tongue, cold and sharp, after a few seconds. They drifted away, disappearing through the opposite door. Ethan waited until the sound faded, then returned to her side. "I'll come back," he whispered. "I'll find a safe place for you." Her gaze followed him as he stepped away. For a moment, he thought he saw a spark of hope in her eyes. Small but real. He slipped back through the service door and sealed it behind him. The tunnels felt even colder now. His mind was racing. He needed tools, supplies, a place to hide her. And he needed to figure out how to remove that tracker before whoever was watching made their move as he reached the main corridor. He glanced toward the docking bay. The alien ship was still there, stark shape looming like a shadow that would not leave. A single red light pulsed on its hull, steady and patient, somewhere deep in the ship. Maybe in a control room, someone was probably looking at her signal right now. Waiting for the right moment, Ethan clenched his fists. He would not wait for them to come. He would act first. He would get her out before the hunters arrived. Far behind him, in the cold cage of the entertainment sector, the alien girl whispered something into the empty air. Her voice was soft, almost a song. It was not a word Ethan would understand. But it was a name, her name. The next cycle began with a soft chime across the station. The lights brightened slowly, simulating morning. But Ethan had not slept. He had spent the entire night in his workshop, studying the scan results he had taken of the alien girl. The small device inside her chest was no ordinary tracker. It pulsed at a steady rhythm, but every 10th pulse carried a second signal, one that was harder to detect. Ethan recognized ET was a military code. He had seen something like it during the war. It meant the device could send more than just location data. It could transmit her health, her surroundings, maybe even audio. If that was true, then whoever put it there already knew she was still alive. Ethan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. He couldn't just remove the device. It was wrapped around something vital inside her chest. One wrong move, and it could kill her, and there was another problem. Removing it would send a final loud signal to whoever was listening, a signal that would tell them exactly where to find her. A sharp knock on his workshop door made him jump. He quickly shut the scanner display and opened the door. A tall figure stood. Where it was Markle, one of the senior engineers. His eyes were sharp, his smile thin. "You were seen near the entertainment sector last night," Markle said. "Commander Hale wants to remind you to stay in your assigned areas." Ethan forced a casual shrug. "Just fixing a power relay," he said. Markle studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Good," he said, "because that thing they brought is not our problem." With that, he turned and left. Ethan waited until the hallway was clear before locking his workshop again. His gut told him Markle was watching him. Maybe for the commander, maybe for the aliens. Either way, it meant he had to move faster. He packed a small bag with tools, a portable med scanner, and a Jamora device that could block short-range signals for a few minutes. It wasn't much, but it might give him the time he needed. The maintenance tunnels were quieter than usual, which made him uneasy as he neared the entertainment sector. He stopped. There was a faint hum in the air, different from the usual machine noise. He traced it to a small floating orb wedged between the pipes. It was an alien surveillance drone. Smaller than his fist, its single red eye blinked slowly, scanning the corridor. Ethan's heart skipped. He knew these drones, they could map a person's heat signature and track them anywhere. He stayed still until the drone floated away, then moved quickly. His plan to reach her unnoticed was already falling apart. The aliens were tightening their net. When he finally reached the cage room, the lights inside were dim. The alien girl was awake now, sitting with her knees pulled close to her chest. She looked weaker than before, but her eyes still followed him as he stepped from the shadows. "It's worse than I thought," Ethan whispered, crouching near the bars. That thing in you, it's not just a tracker, sending everything about you back to them. Her eyes widened. She touched her chest lightly, as if she could feel the danger inside. I have a jammer, he continued. I can block it for a short time, but once it's off, they'll know something's wrong. She tilted her head slightly. Listening then, to his surprise, she spoke. Her voice was soft and broken. But this time, the words were in English. If you block it, they will come fast. Ethan blinked. You understand me? She gave the smallest nod. Learned from humans. Before. Her breath was shaky. They hurt me. Ethan's jaw tightened. Not anymore, he said. I'm going to get you out. But we'll need a place they can't find. Her gaze flicked toward the ceiling. They always find, she whispered. Before Ethan could answer, a sudden alarm echoed through the station, a deep, rolling tone that made the floor vibrate. He ducked into the shadows instinctively. The main doors slid open and 2 alien guards stepped inside, their black armor reflecting the cage light. They walked straight to her, one tapping a device on his wrist. The cage bars pulsed brighter, and the girl flinched. A faint hiss came from her chest. Ethan realized they were remotely checking the tracker's signal. The taller guard spoke in their language, harsh and cold. The girl kept her eyes down, answering nothing. After a moment, they turned and left, the doors sliding shut behind them. The girl exhaled slowly. Her hands trembled. Ethan stepped back to the bars. They're testing you, he said quietly. Making sure you're still where they left you. She looked at him, and for the first time, there was no fear in her expression, only determination. Then we must run, she said. Ethan nodded. We will. Far above them, in the alien ship. A figure stood in a dark control room, watching a flickering red light on a display. The pulse from the tracker was steady, but the figure's clawed hand tapped against the console, as if sensing something was about to change. And in the silence of the entertainment sector, Ethan began to plan the most dangerous thing he had ever done. The station's day cycle was halfway through when Ethan decided there was no more time to wait. The alien girl's words from the night before still echoed in his head. We must run. He knew she was right. Every hour that passed meant more eyes on her, more danger for both of them. He moved through the maintenance tunnels with quick, careful steps. The bag over his shoulder carried everything he thought they'd need: food packs, a small water filter, medical supplies, and the jammer. Each step felt heavier, not because of the weight, but because of the choice he was about to make. As he neared the entertainment sector, he slowed. The usual hum of the station was there, but underneath it, he heard something sharper: the high-pitched whine of drones. More than one. He peered around the corner and saw them. 4 alien surveillance drones floated in a grid pattern, scanning the hallways. Their red eyes moved like searching predators. Ethan's heart pounded. This was not routine security. This was a hunt. He ducked into a side passage, pulling the jammer from his bag. He set the device to a low pulse and activated it. A faint ripple in the air spread outward for a few minutes. The drones would lose connection with their controllers. It wasn't much, but it was the only window he'd get. He slipped into the sector's main chamber. The girl was there, still sitting in the cage. When she saw him, her eyes widened, not with surprise, but with recognition. She had been waiting. I'm here to get you out, Ethan whispered, crouching beside the glowing bars. Once I cut power to these, we move fast. She glanced toward the doors, then back to him. Fast, she agreed. Ethan opened his toolkit, pulling out a high-frequency cutter. The bars hummed louder as the tool's blade touched them. A bright spark flashed, and for a second, the cage's glow dimmed. The girl flinched but stayed still. Suddenly, a loud metallic clang echoed down the hall. Ethan froze, voices alien, sharp and fast, were coming closer. He pushed the cutter harder. The bars flickered again, then died. The girl didn't wait. She slipped out silently, moving like water through the shadows. Ethan grabbed his bag and nodded toward the side exit. They moved quickly through the service corridors. Ethan leading, the girl close behind. The jammer's light blinked faster, was running out of time. Red beams sliced through the air just ahead of them. Ethan yanked her back. A drone floated into view from the next junction. Scanning the air, its sensors glowed bright. Ethan threw a metal pipe down another corridor. The clang echoed. The drone turned and followed the sound. Giving them a few seconds to slip past, they descended into the lower tunnels, where the air was damp and the walls were lined with thick coolant pipes. Here, the station smelled faintly of rust and cold water. Few people came this deep, which made it safer for now. They stopped near a sealed maintenance hatch. Ethan pressed his ear against it. No sound on the other side. Good. This leads to the old storage decks, he whispered. No one uses them anymore. The girl tilted her head. Why not? Ethan hesitated. Because they're falling apart, he said. But that means no guards. He opened the hatch and they slipped inside. The space beyond was dark, lit only by the faint glow of leaking coolant. The floor creaked under their steps. Every sound felt too loud halfway through the deck. The jammer gave a final soft beep and went silent. The pulse shield around them was gone. Somewhere above, a signal was already racing back to the alien ship, telling them exactly where she was. They'll be here soon, Ethan said, picking up the pace. The girl didn't slow. Her breathing was steady, but her eyes kept flicking toward the shadows. As if she could hear something he couldn't, they reached the far end of the deck, where another hatch led to the maintenance elevator. Ethan pried it open and gestured for her to climb inside. She moved quickly, her small frame fitting easily into the shaft as Ethan followed. A sharp, metallic screech tore through the silence. He looked back through the darkness. Two red lights appeared, growing brighter. Drones. He slammed the hatch shut and began climbing. The elevator shaft was narrow, and every movement echoed below. The faint whir of drone engines grew louder. They climbed for what felt like forever. Before reaching the top, Ethan pulled the safety lock and pushed the door open, pulling her out with him. They were in another part of the station, an abandoned hydroponics bay. Dust-covered equipment lay scattered across the floor. Vines hung from the ceiling where the grow lights had long since failed. This will work for now, Ethan said. Breathing hard, we'll hide here until I figure out our next move. The girl looked at him for a long moment, then spoke softly. You? Risk your life for me. Ethan met her gaze. I'm not going to let them take you back, he said. She nodded once, then turned toward the door. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it carried a weight that made the air feel heavier. They're already here. The hydroponics bay was silent except for the slow drip of water from a broken pipe. Dust floated in the pale beams of emergency light. Ethan checked the doors twice, locking them with old manual bolts. It wouldn't stop the aliens if they found this place, but it might slow them. The alien girl stood near the center of the room, her silver hair catching the faint light. She looked calmer than before. Though her eyes still searched the shadows, Ethan could see the tension in her shoulders. The way her hands stayed half-curled as if ready to run. We're safe here for now, Ethan said quietly. But they'll keep searching. She turned to him, her voice soft. They will not stop. Ethan hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning in his mind since the first time he saw her. Why? For a long moment, she said nothing. Her gaze dropped to the cracked floor, as if the answer was buried somewhere beneath them. Then she stepped closer, her eyes lifting to meet his. Because I am not who they told you. Ethan frowned. Who are you then? She took a breath, her words slow. My name is Lyra. The name carried a strange weight, as if it belonged to another world, another life. Ethan repeated it under his breath. Lyra, I am the daughter of Selvar. She continued, "Leader of the Kareth Rebellion." Ethan's heart skipped. He had heard that name before, even on the human stations. Whispers of the Kareth Rebellion spread through traders and smugglers. The Kareth were one of the few alien factions brave enough to stand against the Empire. And Selvar was their most feared commander. "You're a rebel," Ethan said slowly. Lyra shook her head. "I am only a child of one." Her tone hardened. "But to the Empire, that is enough." Ethan stepped back, letting the truth sink in. "So this gift they brought us," he said. "It wasn't about entertainment. It was a message." "Yes," she said. "They wanted you to see what happens to those who resist them." The air in the room felt heavier now. Ethan paced between the broken planting tables. "And the tracker inside you." Lyra touched her chest lightly. "It is not only a tracker," she said. "It is a leash." Ethan froze. "A leash." "They can stop my heart if they choose," she said simply. "One signal from their ship, and I die." A chill ran down Ethan's spine. He had thought the device was dangerous. "But not like this." "Then we can't just hide," he said. "We have to get it out." Lyra looked at him with calm eyes. "And when you do, they will know. They will come with fire and steel. Not just for me, for you, for everyone on this station." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. The risk was enormous, but so was the cost of doing nothing. He thought about Commander Hale, about the laughing crowd when she first arrived. None of them knew what kind of storm they were inviting. "You said your father is the leader of the rebellion," Ethan said. "Is he still alive?" Her eyes flickered with something between pain and hope. "I do not know," she said. "The last I saw him, he was bleeding, fighting, his ship burned. I was taken." Ethan wanted to ask more, but the faint hum of machinery outside made him stop. Both of them went still. The sound grew louder, footsteps, slow and heavy, moving along the corridor outside. Ethan's hand went to the small plasma cutter at his belt. It wasn't a weapon meant for fighting, but it was all he had. The footsteps stopped at the door. A pause, then the faint sound of something scraping against the lock. Ethan's eyes met Lyra's. No words were needed, both of them understood. They had been found. Ethan moved quickly. Guiding her toward the back of the bay, there was an old service hatch there, sealed with rust but still usable. He worked the latch while Lyra kept her eyes on the door. Her body was tense, ready to move. A metallic clang rang out as the main door shuddered under a heavy blow. The bolts groaned. "Go," Ethan whispered. Shoving the hatch open, a rush of cold air came through, carrying the smell of the lower maintenance decks. Lyra slipped inside. Ethan followed, pulling the hatch closed just as the bay door burst open behind them. The sound of armored boots hit the floor, voices speaking in the alien tongue, sharp and urgent. They climbed down the narrow shaft, the metal rungs slick with condensation. Ethan's heart pounded in his ears. Above them, the sound of boots grew fainter. But he knew the aliens wouldn't stop. They would search every inch. When they reached the bottom, Lyra turned to him. "Now you know why I must not go back," she said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "If they take me, your people will be next." Ethan looked at her in the dim light. And for the first time since he met her, he saw not fear, but strength. She was more than someone to be saved. She was a reason to fight. Somewhere far above, in the alien ship, a red light on a control panel began to pulse faster. The hunters had her trail again, and they were closing in. The maintenance deck was colder here. The walls dripped with condensation, and the air smelled faintly of oil and metal. Ethan guided Lyra into a small workshop tucked behind a collapsed storage room. The space was dark, except for the soft glow. From his portable lamp, "This will have to do," Ethan said quietly. Setting his bag on the workbench, he pulled out the med scanner and tools, his hands already moving fast. Lyra stood near the wall, her silver eyes following every motion. "You are going to take it out," she said. Not as a question, but as a statement. Yes, Ethan replied. If we leave it in, they can track you anywhere, and worse. They can end your life with a signal. She stepped closer. It will not be easy. He gave a small, humorless smile. I didn't expect easy. He placed the med scanner against her chest. The device hummed softly, showing the tracker buried deep near her heart. Thin metallic filaments wrapped around living tissue like roots strangling a tree. Removing it without damage would be a nightmare. Outside, the faint echo of movement passed through the deck. Heavy and distant, Ethan's jaw tightened. They're sweeping the lower levels already. He muttered. We don't have long. Lyra lowered herself onto the workbench. Her face was calm, but her hands were clenched. Do it, she said. Ethan pulled out the precision cutter. A small set of surgical clamps and a microlaser. He activated the jammer, knowing it would only block signals for a short while once I start. The device might detect tampering, he warned, if it sends a distress signal. They'll come. Even faster? She nodded once, then be faster. He took a deep breath and began. The laser sliced through the outer layer of alien biometal fused to her skin. A faint hiss of heat rose into the air. Lyra winced but stayed still. The first filament came free with a faint spark. The scanner beeped a warning. Ethan's eyes darted to the display. The tracker's signal was spiking. It knows, he whispered. He worked faster. Sweat forming on his forehead, every move had to be exact. One wrong cut could sever an artery or send the tracker into a self-destruct mode. Outside, a sharp clang echoed. Closer this time, Lyra's breathing grew heavier, but she didn't speak. Ethan's fingers moved with desperate precision. The second filament snapped free. The scanner's warning light flashed red short bursts of signal, trying to break through the jammer. Come on, Ethan muttered under his breath, suddenly. The workshop's outer wall shook. A low thud, followed by a screech of metal, told him exactly what was happening. Someone was cutting through. He didn't look up. The third filament was the deepest, wrapped around delicate tissue. He steadied his hand, ignoring the vibration in the walls. A loud bang rang out behind him. Boots hitting the floor outside. They're here, Lyra said softly. I know. Ethan replied through gritted teeth. The filament came loose with a sharp metallic snap. The tracker was now free, except for its root connection. Ethan grabbed the clamps, severed the link, and pulled the small device out in one motion. It fell into the tray, still pulsing faintly. He slammed the clamps onto the wound to stop the bleeding, then sealed it with the microlaser. The smell of burnt tissue filled the air. Lyra hissed in pain but didn't move. The door behind them exploded inward, shards of metal scattering across the floor. Two alien soldiers in black armor stormed in, weapons raised. Ethan didn't think. He grabbed the tray with the tracker and hurled it into the far corner. The alien's eyes followed the pulsing device, mistaking it for her location. One rushed toward it. The other stayed at the door. Move, Ethan shouted, grabbing Lyra's hand. They darted toward the side hatch he had left half open. The alien at the door turned too late. A shot from his weapon scorching the wall inches from Ethan's head. They dove through the hatch and into the narrow crawl space. Ethan pulled it shut behind them. The sound of alien voices grew louder, weapons firing into the room they had just left. The crawl space was pitch black, except for the faint glow of Lyra's eyes ahead. Ethan's heart was pounding. His hands shook not from fear, but from the adrenaline of what they had just done. You did it, Lyra whispered, her voice almost in disbelief. Yeah, Ethan said, his voice rough. But now we have no jammer. And they know exactly what we did, far above, on the alien ship. The control panel where the tracker signal had once pulsed now showed nothing but static. The commander's clawed hand tightened on the console, his voice a low growl as he ordered every hunter deployed in the crawl space. Ethan and Lyra kept moving. Their only light, the faint glow of her skin. They had escaped the leash, but in doing so, they had unleashed the full fury of the Empire. And deep down, Ethan knew this was no longer just about saving her. It was about fighting back. The crawlspace led them to a grated hatch overlooking the docking bay. Below, the vast chamber echoed with alarms. Lights flashing red across steel walls. The alien ship loomed in the distance, its black hull swallowing the light around it. Ethan pressed his ear against the grate. The voices of soldiers filled the air. Orders shouted in the alien tongue. Dozens of armored figures moved through the bay, scanning every shadow. "We can't stay here," he whispered. Lyra crouched beside him, her breathing steady despite the chaos. "Where?" she asked. He pointed toward the far side of the bay, where smaller human cargo ships were docked. "That one," he said. "If we get to it, we can be gone before they know." But between them and the ship was a sea of enemies. Ethan pulled a small device from his bag of flare charge. He had used them before to distract security drones. This time, it would have to distract an entire alien squad. "On my signal, we run," he said. She nodded without hesitation. He twisted the flare's cap and dropped it through the grate. It hit the floor with a sharp clang, then exploded in a burst of blinding white light. The bay erupted in shouts. Soldiers turning toward the blast. Their visors struggled to adjust to the sudden glare. Ethan kicked the grate open and jumped down, landing hard on the metal floor. Lyra followed with the grace of a shadow. Together, they ran, weaving between cargo crates as the flare's light began to fade. A soldier spotted them, shouting an order. Blaster fire ripped past them, sparks spraying from the walls. Ethan shoved Lyra behind a crate and fired his plasma cutter, not as a weapon, but at a fuel canister. The hiss of escaping gas filled the air. The gas ignited with a roaring flash. Fire rolled across the bay, forcing the nearest soldiers to dive for cover. The heat hit them like a wave, but it bought them the seconds they needed. They reached the docked cargo ship. Ethan slammed his hand on the hatch release. The door hissed open, and they scrambled inside. The ship smelled of dust and old coolant, probably hadn't been flown in weeks. "Can you fly this?" Lyra asked. Ethan dropped into the pilot's seat. "I can fly anything that moves," he said, fingers dancing across the controls. The ship's systems groaned to life, thrusters warming with a deep hum. Outside, the soldiers had regrouped. A squad sprinted toward the ship. Weapons raised, Ethan slammed the throttle. The docking clamps groaned and snapped free. The ship lifted, shaking as it cleared the platform. The alien ship in the bay rotated toward them, weapon ports glowing. "Hold on," Ethan shouted. A lance of energy ripped past their hull. The heat rattling the ship's frame, Ethan jerked the controls. The cargo vessel rolling hard to the side. Another shot blazed by, close enough to light the cockpit in a red flash. Lyra gripped the seat, her eyes locked on the alien ship. Her hands began to glow faintly, a shimmer running along her arms. Ethan saw it in the corner of his vision. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Ending this," she said. She pressed her palms together, and a sphere of bright energy formed between them. It pulsed once, twice, then shot forward through the cockpit, glass like it wasn't even there. Outside, the sphere hit the alien ship's forward cannon. A blinding shockwave rippled across its hull. The cannon exploded in a burst of fire and debris. The alien vessel shuddered, lights across its surface flickering. Ethan didn't wait. He punched the hyperdrive. The stars outside stretched into white lines, and the station, the bay, and the alien ship vanished behind them. For a long moment, there was only silence. The hum of the engines was the only sound. Lyra leaned back in her seat, her glow fading. She looked exhausted but alive. Ethan glanced at her. "You just saved us." She met his eyes. "No," she said softly. "We saved each other." He looked out at the streaking stars, somewhere. Out there, the Empire was already planning their next move. But for now, they were free. Lyra turned her gaze to the void ahead. Where will we go? She asked. Ethan thought for a moment, then smiled faintly. Somewhere they can't find us, he said. And when they do, we'll be ready. The ship drifted deeper into hyperspace. Two fugitives bound by more than survival. The fight was far from over. But for the first time, hope traveled with them.